We're going over selected concepts, Kabbalah concepts, letters. Right, this is Tanta. So what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to go over various of the different parts of the way that Kabbalah uses the Hebrew language as structure. So there's this concept called Tanta, which stands for Tamim Nukudot Ginotiyot, which is tastes, points, crowns, and letters. And the idea is that there's 4 different parts that are used in the Hebrew alphabet or the Hebrew writings to point out different spiritual concepts. So we have the first, which is Tamim, the tastes. And these are representing the musical signals for when the person, let's say, is he's reading the Bible, he's reading the Torah, normally in front of a congregation. Normally it's on either on special days like festivals or a new month, or on the Shabbos, or on Monday or Thursday mornings in the synagogue. They read certain portions of the Bibles. Most of the time it's the portion of the week. And the idea is that even though in the Torah scroll itself, in the Bible scroll, there aren't the tastes, they're not written there, but the person takes this book, in Hebrew it's called Tikkun Ko'im, and it basically has all the words of the Bible, but with also the taste, the tamim around the letters, and he memorizes them, and then when he goes to read from the actual scroll, which doesn't have them, he reads the words with the right musical pronunciation because he's memorized it from the book that he worked with beforehand. And these different musical signals define the flow of how the instructor or the reader reads the Torah portion. So these tastes, these tamim, and they could be above the letter or below the letter, they represent hitpashtut in Kabbalah. Hitpashtut is expansion. And this is where we talked about how the head expands into the body. So you've got the head, which is the mating by striking, which is the calculation, the observation, the istaklut aleph. And then the idea is that it expands into the body. So that expansion of the lights with the reflected light, direct light into the body, that's called Pashtut expansion, and that is called Tamim, tastes. The next part is called Nikudot. Nikudot are points or deficiencies. And this in Kabbalah is represented by Histalkut, which is departure. It's also called Histaklut Bet, which is the second observation. And the difference between the expansion and the departure is that the expansion is the lights going into the body, and the departure, or the points, is when the lights are going out of the body, and they go out step by step, so there's multiple mating by strikings, but each time the screen gets purified from the beating of the direct light of the inner light of the surrounding light, and then as the light goes out, that is called a departure, and that whole process is called Nikudot, points. And we'll go over today on the different points. The points are pronunciation. So depending on the pronunciation point, that will decide how you say the letter. That is like in English, A-E-I-O-U. The next part is Tagin, crowns. And these represent Kabbalah Reshimot, which are memories. And they are referenced, and we'll go over them as well today, the crowns on the letters. And we'll learn how do we decide if there's 3 crowns or 1 crown or no crown at all. We'll go over that logic as well. And then finally, we have, and what is the memories? The memories is when the lights are leaving the vessel, they leave a memory of what it was like, what it felt like in the vessel beforehand. So every time the light dissipates, the light is still there, but it's sort of moved into more of a memory of what it was. So it goes from being a light into a memory. And then finally, we've got otiyot, which are letters. And these are represent in Kabbalah nitzotzot, which are sparks. This happens where when we'll go into the structure in later sessions, when the reflected light that is going up as the screen is being purified, it enters the vessels which are below that purification point, below the screen, below the tabor, and then it conflicts with the memories that are in the vessel. And what that does is it forces those memories above, and that's why the crowns are above the letter, because it forces it above. And the letters themselves are the result of that clash between the reflected light going into the vessel and the memories, and that causes a strengthening of the vessel, and that strengthening is called nitzotzot, sparks. So we'll go over a little quote from Talmud Sefirot. Hipushtut Aleph Dakudim, first expansion of streaks, is called Tamim, tastes. The level of the Or Chozer, reflected light, is called Nekudot, points. The Rishimot, memories, are called Tagim, crowns. The Nitzotzot, sparks, are called Otiyot, lights. 11. Now you can understand what we have said, that there are 4 Bechinot, phases, in these Orot, lights, of Akudim, streaks. Tamim, tastes. Nekudot, points. Tegin, crowns. And Otiyot, letters. This is what they are about. The first Or, light, among them, is called Tamim, tastes. And the third Or, light, called Or Chozer, reflected light, is called Nekudot, points. It is known that Nekudot, points, are Bechinat Din, a measure of judgment. The second Or, light, called Rishimah, memory, is called Tegin, crowns. And the fourth Or, lights, is the falling Nitzotzot, sparks, called Otiyot, letters. It's from chapter 3 in Talmud Sefirot, part 4. Any general questions?
Could you repeat a little bit what you said about the letters, the Otiyot, and how I missed the part where how the Rishimot get pushed up with the light coming back in?
So the idea is that as the screen is being purified, there's reflected light in the phase above it. And then what happens is that the reflected light tries to go down below the tabor, right? Like in the end, right? The sof, the end. So there's reflected light there. That reflected light then clashes with the memories which are in the vessel from the previous purification part. And because they clash, the reflected light, because it's sort of from the new state, it's stronger than a memory. And therefore it pushes the memory outside of the vessel and pushes it just above it to sort of affect it from above. And that's why it goes above the letter.
What is this? Isn't Otiyot? Isn't that also Rishima of the light leaving?
No, well, that's the idea. Why is the memory of the light leaving?
What is the actual letter itself? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so the letter itself, but why is it a memory of the light leaving? Because what basically happens is you've got the reflected light, which is meant to be the end. What is the end? The reflected light that is felt in the end is the deficiency of what you didn't get. It's a lack, it's a deficiency. So the idea is that because of the clash between the memories going up and the reflected light going into the vessel, that creates sparks. And those sparks sort of create a stronger foundation for the deficiency to exist, that even when the lights go back in afterwards, in the second expansion, the vessel is still there. So basically in a state where you have a deficiency, it's filled, but you can still move forward, you can still do things. So it's basically the state where you're moving from perfection to perfection. So instead of what normally happens, where you either feel deficiency or you feel annulled into the light, through this whole process, you're constantly creating new vessels in you that can withstand the light going back in. And even though you're filled to the brim with light, you're not annulled to it.
This is very hard for me.
Let it flow, you'll see.
Okay.
Or you can ask specific things.
I have a
All this
question.
Yeah, go for it, Maria.
What link is there towards the future lights? As in Reshimo is leaving the reminiscence of the light, what is there to link to the future lights or to a nuclei?
So that's the surrounding light that's coming from outside the vessel. That's not a memory inside the vessel.
Okay.
Right? That's the constant attraction force that is bringing in new lights, and then you're doing the observation, and then you've got that reflection that is pushing it away. That's a constant thing. It's not a memory per se of what you had before.
I'm trying to link it between cause and consequence, and how you're relating to this light is also affecting how the new lights will be pushed, or through what intensity. So is there any connection to that?
What do you mean?
So the reality that is seemed is both cause and consequence. And even though we're talking about Reshimo, or these reminiscence of light, how this is interacted with is sort of also scripting, if you will, what the next slide will be. So how do we connect those?
So what you have is you have two processes. You have the process of getting stimuli from outside of you, from reality or from your subconscious, basically. That's the light coming down into the vessel is coming from your subconscious, which is also called the creator, into your consciousness, which is called the will to receive. And then the idea is that in the will to receive, in the consciousness, you also have memories of what you had. You have conscious memories of what you had. So you've got this combination of attraction from your subconscious into your consciousness, and then in your conscious you also have deficiencies and feelings of what you had, and you're aware of them. They're not just hidden within you. These memories, everything we're talking about is sensations. You actually feel these parts, and therefore it's not just something in your subconscious. These are already talking about things that were able to be sensed and felt. And these are thoughts and emotions.
So I can relate to Tamim being the expansion of the light in the vessel, and the Nikudot, the sensation of the light going out. And during this sensation, the memories of those sensations are being created and are still in the vessel. And then I know, and this is where I'm not, where I don't feel it, that there's a light that's coming into the vessel and banging, like smashing with those memories and pushing them into their place as memories outside the vessel.
Can I give you an example?
Which light is that?
Let me give you an example in reality. You go to a vacation. Going to vacation, that is expansion. Then you're going back home, that is departure. You're leaving your vacation. Then you have memories of your vacation, how great it was. And then your boss comes and tells you what to do. And then you have a clash between the reality and the memory of how good it was. And that creates sparks. That creates letters. That creates a sort of a higher deficiency. There's one thing remembering your vacation. There's another where it actually makes you want to go back to your vacation. There's a difference between reminiscing, saying, oh, it was so good then having a vessel, which means a desire, a conscious desire to actually want to go back to that situation. But the way you go back is actually by moving forward. Because you don't go back to the vacation, you go to a new vacation. So you get to experience that memory again by actually experiencing a new one, a new expansion, then a new departure, and then new memories, and then new sparks. And the cycle continues.
So the sparks are created by the tension between my memories and the reality.
Exactly. Between the state of the departure, that you're losing your state, and the memories of that you had it before.
And the light that's coming in, the light of reality, is that direct light or reflected light? Or?
So it's direct light that is leaving the vessel. It's direct light that is getting, your screen is diminishing. You're losing your force, and therefore you're losing your internal power, your sensation of internal power.
So this light is coming from the screen, I mean, like the...
Well, the screen reflects it, remember. The screen is taking the direct light, reflecting most of it. The part that it's going to receive, it's going to receive it.
Which one of the screens are you talking about?
Let's say we're talking here about Galgata. So we're talking right after the barrier. The first screen after the barrier, when it departs. When the screen gets purified, and then you lose your state of internal power at the time. And the reason I brought this whole slide is just to show the relationship between the different parts of the letters and how they sort of work together.
So, I mean, like, what really, we're looking at the letters. I mean, what the hell is this makes sense? Like, why those lines up there, those are Tamim, and then Nekodot, and, you know, circle there, and crowns over there. How does that relate to anything that we're just saying?
So the idea is they used as representations. It's like they used pictures, they used symbols to represent different states. So that's why they called it Tanta. So they're taking the letters of the Bible and they're using the 4 parts of it to represent different part of the experience. Just like when you look at a picture, look at the date, it gives you a memory. Then you look how much you had fun, right? And then, you know, you sort of look at your own watch and you're like, oh, you know, that was a long time ago, right? So all those are different experiences you're getting from the same picture, from the same experience. So they use different symbols to represent these different parts.
But the last one, the otiyot, that is the actual letter itself, sort of.
Exactly. Letters represent deficiencies.
Letters represent deficiency, and why is that?
So the idea is that the white of the sheet represents the light, and the black on the sheet represents deficiencies. So the light represents the will to bestow, and the black represents the will to receive.
Right.
Right? It's going from abstraction from a potential to actuality. Right? So you've got a white page. It's like people say a clean slate. Right? And then you start drawing things on that slate. You're drawing deficiencies, lacks.
Yeah. So this letter now is like the deficiency of the memory. And right?
Exactly. It's a deficiency of the state that you had before. But it's an active deficiency. It's not a passive one. It's not like, oh, I'm so old. I remember when I was younger, you know, I could have fun, right? The idea is that the otiyot represents an active desire to want to reach a future state. And
then Tagin is a passive.
Exactly.
Like, oh, I'm old. I wish I could have.
Exactly. If someone just has memories, they're like, oh, I just have memories. If someone has letters, that means they have desires. Right? That's why we call letters desires. Where it's I want this, but you only can want something if you had it before.
Right, but that active participation is fueled by that memory of Tagin.
Exactly. That's why it's on top of the letter. It's like a goal, right? It's called a ketel. It's a crown.
The goal.
It's the goal. So what brings you there is the deficiency.
Okay.
Why is the Shema the goal?
Well, that's what it's called ketalim. It's called crowns. It's above the letter. So it represents the idea of the memory. It's like, this is what I want, but a goal is not enough because a goal can't actually sort of motivate you. You need some deficiency to motivate you.
Yeah, but how can I have, I mean, are you saying that the memories are the goal or the memories are the mean to the goal?
The memory is a ketel is, a crown is the medium between the next state and the previous state, between the upper and the lower, right? The crown is always the medium discernment. It's always the medium phase between, it's like when we talk about the root. The root is what connects between, let's say, 1.4, which is, you know, theology, to 2.1, which is connection. So the crown is 2.0. So it connects between the previous phase and the next phase. It's a medium between sort of where you were, because it's a memory, but it's actually a way to get you to where you want to be. And that's what a goal is. If you have a goal, you're not there. So how do you have a goal if you're not there? So the idea is that it's a memory, right? It's an understanding of a goal. So it's a memory of a goal, and that is a medium phase, and that's what allows you to get to the goal. Now, if you're moving towards a goal, that means you don't have the goal yet. Otherwise, you wouldn't be moving towards it. So it's a memory of what you believe the goal to be, and then you're moving towards it. So the goal can't be felt as something in the future. It's actually a memory from the past, but you're portraying it as what you expect it to be in the future. It's your faith. And the letters is your reason. So it's faith above reason.
So are we supposed to turn these remembrances of pleasure or whatever into, like, work on them to actually turn them into desires, or is that what we should do with these?
That's what we're doing throughout the growth. We're turning these memories into desires. We're first experiencing them, then they're departing, then they're memories, and then we make them into sparks, into letters. That's what it's called Tanta. Tastes, points, crowns, letters. Tamim, Nikudot, Tegim, Otiyot.
How do we grow the desire then?
What?
How do we actively grow the desire, those desires? The same way we grow the point in the heart?
Exactly.
How?
We're combining between a memory of what we want the future to be and the deficiency that we don't have it right now. So we're combining between the departure and the memories. It's called in Kabbalah it's the beating between din v'rachamim, between judgment and mercy, where the mercy is the memories, because it's the memory of the mercy of the expansion of the light entering, and between the judgment, which is considered the nikudot, the points, the istalkut, the departure, that's considered judgment, because you're leaving something and not feeling that anymore. So the clash between the memories of the mercy and the current feeling of judgment, they clash together and they build an active desire, which is called letters, otiyot, and sparks. I think we'll move forward. Otiyot, letters. So what we have here is all the different letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So first let's go over them. So we've got Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ain, Pei, Tzadi, Kuf, Reish, Shin, Taf. And these are ending letters. Chaf Sofit, Mem Sofit, Nun Sofit, Pei Sofit, and Tzadi Sofit. So these are all the different Hebrew letters. And underneath them, you have the numerology of each letter. So Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Gimel in numerology is 3, Dalet is 4, Hey is 5, Vav is 6, Zayin is 7, Chet is 8, Tet is 9, Yud is 10, Kaf is 20, Lamed is 30, Mem is 40, Nun is 50, Samech is 60, Ain is 70, Pei is 80, Tzadi is 90, Kuf is 100, Reish is 200, Shin is 300, Taf is 400, then you've got the ending letters, Chaf, which is like this Chaf, so it's 20, Mem Sofit, so therefore it's 40, Nun Sofit, and therefore it's 50, Pei Sofit, therefore it's 80, and Tzadi Sofit is 90. And the idea is that when you end a word with any of the letters of Kaf, Mem, Nun, Pei, or Tzadi, that they're exchanged with their ending letters. These are normally called mantzabach, and they represent letters of judgment, since they're ending the sequence. And the reason why they're colored differently is the idea is that in the Hebrew language, they're divided into 5 parts of the mouth. So the mouth has 5 parts. It has, from internal to external, it has internally the gaon, which is the throat. Then you have the chech, which is the palate, the lashon, which is the tongue, the shinaim, which is the teeth, and finally the sfataim, which are the lips. And the idea is that each of the letters are connected to one of these parts of the mouth. So you've got, and we'll go from internal to external. So from internal, we've got the gaon, which is throat. So we've got the letters aleph, hey, chet, and ayin. Then we've got the letters that come from the chech, the palate, and those are gimel, yud, kaf, and kuf. And you've also got the chaf safed, or kaf safed. Then you have from the lashon, the tongue, so that is daled, tet, lamed, nun, and taf. Then you've got the letters from the shinaim, the teeth, zayin, samech, tzadi, resh, and shin. Right? And also the tzadi safed. And then finally you've got the letters from the sfataim, the lips, which are bet, vav, mem, and pei. And of course, mem safed and pei safed. So the idea is that the letters are divided into different, you could say, intensities or depths. This, of course, has, Kabbalistic meaning. It's not talking about the physical mouth. The idea is that it's representing the different levels of the lights as they went through the expansion and then departed. So you've got the 5 levels going from the lips, which is the peh, right, closer to the mouth, and it goes all the way deeper in, all the way to the gaon, which is the throat.
How come there's only 4 from the throat? Or is it because there's no ending attributed to that? There's only 4 white ones.
But also in the sfataim, there's only 4. So
in which one?
In the gaon, which is the throat, in the chech, which is the palate, and the sfataim and the lips, they all have 4 letters. The only ones that have 2, which have 5, are the lashon, the tongue, and the shinaim, the teeth. So the idea is that the ones that have the ending letters, these are just ending letters. So they don't actually count as extra letters.
Got it. Okay, I see it.
Now, these are mantzapach. These are, if you have a kaf at the end of the word, you exchange it to a kaf or chaf sofit. If you have a mem at the end of the word, you end it with a mem sofit. For example, the word maim, which is water. So that is made of mem, yud, and then instead of a mem, you have a mem sofit. That's water. So then the numerical equivalence of water would be 90, which is a tzadi.
Where did you get the letters from? Like sort of the references to the different sort of parts.
So it's both in the actual language itself, but there's also sources, and I found various on the internet of where these are written.
Never seen presentations. So basically, you just took gaon, and then it's got acha. What is that? That's just those
are the letters aleph, hey, het, and ayin. The idea is
that a word, right?
It is. It's not a real word. The idea is that the sound comes from the throat. Aleph. It's I'm not very good at saying the actual the original ways you meant to say these letters. I say them more in a sort of Ashkenazi way.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it's meant to be aleph, hey, het, ayin. That's right. I don't talk like that, but yeah, that's the. So they're sounds that come from the throat.
Ah,
it's the vocal point.
I got you. Okay.
Het, right? It's ha.
Yeah. Het.
Het. Het.
Right.
I say het, but
You're not Yemen. You know, Yemen, real hard. So I guess you could make the same correlation with the other ones, right? So like what, like Lashon?
Yeah, so the tongue is easy, like
Daled, Taf, Lamed, like it's like you roll it with your tongue a bit.
you roll it, Lamed,
Yeah, it's
Nun.
very cool.
Yeah. Like the lips ones, like Bet, Bav, Mem, Pei.
But that's fascinating. I've never seen it. It's amazing. It's really cool.
If you want to, for example, check if it's a tongue word, then try to pronounce it while keeping your tongue stuck to the bottom of your mouth. If you can't do it, then it's a tongue word, a letter.
Yeah. Like the teeth ones, which are Zain, Samech, Sadi, Reish, Shin, right? You can see the teeth are the main attribute, the main property there. So this is just like some depth. Of course, there's so many more things with the letters, and each letter has reasons why it's written like that and what it represents and stuff. For example, in the Torah scroll, the Pei is written in a way where the Bet is actually right inside of it. So the idea is in the Pei, in the Torah scroll, there's a little like sort of like notch over here on the side of the Pei that actually allows the Bet to be inside of it. So you've got the Bet inside and you've got the Pei outside. And that also has like spiritual meanings and stuff. There's many interplays with the Hebrew letters. Should we go on? Let's move on. Nikudot, points. So if you just have the letters themselves, and most of the times in the books, and even in the Torah scroll, there's only the letters and the crowns that we'll see in a moment. So the points, the punctuation, and the tastes aren't written in the Torah scroll, and you have to memorize them by reading a book that does have them. But most, for example, Hebrew literature books don't have the punctuation. So when you get a book of Balasolam in Hebrew, you only see letters. There's definitely no taste because it's not sung, but there's also no punctuation. You basically figure out the punctuation of words by looking at the letters, and they have by the context, you can figure out what the punctuation is. So the different punctuation points are, we've got, and I'm using the letter Aleph in here. So we've got, so I'm going to say the way I say it, and then I'll say how it's like said in the more differentiating part. So the way I say it is A, which is kamatz. This is the cut of the crown. But the way, for example, Lithuanian Jews, Ashkenazim, they say O. So it's komotz, and that's cut of crown. Then you've got A, which is patach, chachma, wisdom. Then you've got E, which is tzerei, bina, understanding. Then you've got E, which is segol, which is chesed, kindness. Then you've got A, which is shva, this is gevura, judgment. Then you've got O, which is cholam, tiferet, beauty. Then you have U, which is shuruk, netzach, eternity. You have E, which is chirik, which is hod, majesty. And finally, U, which is kibbutz, so foundation. And malchut doesn't have a pronunciation. So it doesn't have a deficiency. Since the idea is that in the departure of the lights, leaving the spiritual face, the malchut, the kingdom, is filled with the tastes. And all the rest of the emanations, the sphirot, are filled as through the departure of the lights. So that's why all the other punctuations have an emanation that applies to them, and the only one who doesn't, which is Malchut, the kingdom, because that represents actually the expansion, the Pashtut, and not the Istalkut, which is the departure. What do you think?
So say Aleph without a Nukadot. Is that Malkut, indicating Malkut? Just
Exactly.
plain?
That's it. Just a plain letter without any punctuation. Like for example,
I'll be honest with you. I don't get the whole gist of it.
so the idea is you've got the lights coming in. So you're experiencing internal power, right? You feel good. That is called tastes. Then you lose your internal power. That's called nikudot. It's called points. So when you lose your internal power, it's actually, you might feel it sudden, but it was actually gradual beforehand. So the idea is that gradual, like subsiding or the gradual lowering of your internal power, that's called nikudot, that's called deficiencies. And then each of the steps along that deficiency is given a different punctuation to represent the emanation, that your internal power is losing its state. You're losing the light, your screen is purifying, therefore you're losing your internal power. Because your internal power is only as good as the strength of your screen. The more coarser your screen, the more it can handle your reality, the better it is. And when you feel it purifies, you feel less ability to handle situations in life.
And these are the Nikudin, or these are the memories already?
These are the nikudot. This is the deficiency, the feeling as it's happening, as you're feeling that you're losing your internal power, not the memories. We'll talk about the memories in a moment. This is the process you go through. Often you have the memories of what you went through, and you look back like, oh, but I had that.
Why did you start from Nekudot and not from Tamim?
So I didn't make a slide today on the Tamim. I didn't feel the need to start saying the different Tamim, because the only place you would actually experience that is when you go to a synagogue and you hear them reading in the Torah scroll. While the Nikudot you would hear anytime someone reads. Just any Baal HaSulam text, you would hear the different pronunciations. So it made sense to actually show it. But I didn't see the point of bringing all the different tastes and start singing.
So here what you're doing is basically taking the experience of Nekudot and expanding it, giving us insight as to what it includes, different relations that exist within it.
So the idea is that when the internal power leaves you, it's not leaving you in one go. It's actually happening in a grade. It's like in a gradient. It's going step by step. So each time the screen gets purified, let's say, for example, you've got a strong screen, which means you have a screen, let's say, of phase 4 coarseness. It doesn't suddenly become root phase coarseness. What happens is it goes from phase 4 to phase 3, then from phase 3 to phase 2, from phase 2 to phase 1, from phase 1 to root phase. So each time you're getting a purification, then you're getting that another mating by striking, which is that Nikudot that points. Because the light is you're always getting thoughts and emotions, even as you're losing your internal power. It's not like you suddenly freeze and can't think of anything.
And in this process, every time, it's the same process where there's mating, like from after Chinat Daled,
Phase 4.
If phase 4 is done with its purification, then there's mating by striking on phase 3, right?
Exactly. And all the mating, so the first mating by striking, which is done in the head, then expands to the body, and the subsequent mating by strikings, as the screen is purified, are called Nikudot. That's why we said that Malchut doesn't have a punctuation, since Malchut represents the expansion, where the light expanded into the vessel of Malchut. And then only when the deficiencies happened, then you've got the other emanations getting different deficiencies or punctuation points representing those deficiencies. Just like when you say a letter, you're releasing from your mouth, you're releasing sound. So instead of something going in, it's going out. So it's departing your mouth. So you can see that similarity. That punctuation is when you're releasing, right? You're not eating. Eating is called, it's pashtud, it's called expansion. When you're eating something, it means you're connecting to something, you're expanding, you're bringing it into you, you're internalizing. But when you're speaking, you're doing the opposite. You're taking sound and pushing it out of your mouth, not bringing things in.
So when you're eating, that's mercy, and when you're speaking, that's judgment?
Exactly. So they say listening is mercy, and talking is judgmental. That's where it comes from, that whole feeling that it's better to listen than to talk. Doesn't mean you shouldn't talk, because the truth is that actually by talking you can actually advance. And you don't advance by listening. You advance by the internalization, you advance by doing both, you could say, by both listening and talking. So if you're only listening, then it's not going to work. And if you're only talking, it's not going to work. You have to listen and talk. So if you look at the talking by itself, it looks like it's deficiencies. It looks like you're speaking yourself. You're declaring what you know. That's like showing your judgment. So many people could frown on that. But the idea is that you constantly evolve by sharing what you think about concepts, by exposing your state, by sharing what you understand. Then you can listen to what other people have to say as well. And then the combination, you can actually then internalize. You can eat their discernments and internalize them within you. You can't do that if there's not a conversation.
So the conversation creates a deficiency that you can fill in with their thoughts?
Exactly. But if you're just quiet and you're not talking, then there's not that cycle. There's not that expansion. It's like breathing. You can't just breathe in. You also need to breathe out. And that combination is what allows the flow of discernments to thrive in the group. So people who only listen or people who only speak, neither of them advance. It's those that can constantly speak, express, and then listen. And that causes a cycle.
So bestowing is speaking and listening is reception?
Yes.
And even if they make an attempt and make mistakes within it, it doesn't matter anyway. It's still creating that deficiency for advancement by mingling in the thoughts and ideas of others.
Exactly. If they didn't say their mistakes, how would they ever get them corrected?
Exactly. Well, I just wanted to point that out for a couple of the new people. That was all.
I agree. I'll just repeat the punctuations. So we said I say and most people say but it's o, kamatz or komots. This is Keter crown. We've got which is patach, chokhmah wisdom. A, shitzere, being understanding. Segol, chesed kindness. Shva, kavura judgment. O, cholam, tiferet beauty. Shuk, netzach eternity. So this shuk, netzach eternity. Chirik, hod majesty. And kibbutz, yesod foundation. And notice that each of the words of the pronunciation have the sound in it. So kamatz, patach, tzere, segol, right? So the se is the right? Segol, shva is the shva. Then you've got cholam, cholam. Then you've got shuruk, chirik, and kibbutz. So you can see how even the pronunciation of the punctuation has the punctuation in it. It's self-defining.
And these are the vowels, is that right?
Exactly. This is like what would be in English A, E, I, O, U. Let's continue. Tagin. So what we're doing now is the tagin, the crowns. So the idea is that the letters Aleph, Vav, Chaf, Lamed, Mem, Samech, Pei, Resh, Taf, Chaf Sofit, Mem Sofit, and Pei Sofit do not have a crown. They're considered pure letters or pure letters, and therefore they don't need a memory. They don't have the conflict as much. So the idea is, it represents the idea that because there's less conflict there, there's no crown that goes above them. Then you have the letters Bet, Daled, Hey, Chet, Yud, and Kuf. They have one crown on top of them. And the letters Gimel, Zain, Tet, Nun, Ain, Tzadi, Shin, Nun Sofit, and Tzadi Sofit, they have 3 crowns on top of them. So the letters that have one crown are called Bedek Chaya, and the letters that have 3 crowns on them are called Shatnez Gatz. And the idea is that if you miss the 1 crowns, it's still a valid scroll, but the idea is you need the 3 crowns on Shatnez Gatz. And the idea is that this word, this represents, you could say, the forces of deficiency or the evil forces. So you've got Satan, right? And Ez. So it's the goat of the devil, which the holy priest on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, he does a lot on 2 goats, and 1 goat goes towards holiness, and the other goat gets killed and thrown off a cliff, and it's sort of representing the idea of giving the goat to the devil. Right? So remember the definition of the devil. It's not some force sort of outside. The idea is that the devil represents when you feel deficiencies in life, when you feel the lack of control, you associate the source of that feeling of lack of control coming from the devil. Well, if you feel control, then you associate that thought with the creator, internal power. And Gatz is also that's another name of representing an evil force, representing a deficiency for power, a lack of control. That's why when people say that they don't have control, they say, I feel like I'm in hell. Because they're saying that they feel the lack of control. They feel that the devil is in control of them. They're basically saying that they don't feel that they have control over their lives. So because they're feeling that lack of control, they then associate that somebody else must have control. And that's why it's called the other side, right? The Sitra Achra. Because it's representing that you're on one side and you're feeling that lack of control. And therefore you say on the other side, there's someone who is in control. And when you're in a shell, or let's say before the barrier, you associated that, my boss has control, or my wife has control, or my neighbor has control, or my coworker has control. Somebody else has control over me. But when you're in holiness, or when you're in a corrected state, you understand that the creator, your subconscious, is always in control, even if you don't consciously feel it. So there's no point associating that control with anybody that you see in your reality, since your reality is projected from your subconscious, and you're seeing the world from you, and you're attracting your problems, and you're attracting your turmoil, and you're attracting your issues in life. And it's not that other people are causing you problems. And that's why we go through the whole process of going through the locks and unlocking ourselves and going through the phases and advancing to go to that realization every single time that I, as a person, am attracting all my issues. And if I clean my concepts, then I will stop attracting those issues. And there's no need for me to go and blame other people outside. I might still talk to them. I might have all the conversations, but I'm not blaming them. In my mind, in my perception, I'm crystal clear that I'm the one who's manifesting my entire reality. Even if it looks in a corrected state like I'm angry at my wife or angry at my boss, I'm just playing the game. But I don't actually think that the solution will come from them, and that the solution will come from me. What do you think?
So would you say that the devil is actually the broken discernment?
The devil is the feeling of lack of control, and you associate that somebody else must have control.
Yeah, but this boils down to broken discernment.
Well, it depends. It depends. Do you say that the devil is actually the creator in disguise? Do you say that the devil, that lack of control, is actually the subconscious feeding to me that conscious thought that I don't have control, but it's actually me after all? So therefore you're saying that the creator controls the devil? Or are you saying that the devil can do things against the creator, as if the devil has a force of its own? Oh, the creator didn't do that to me. That was that person. It's like, didn't the creator, your subconscious, actually manifest it? It's like, no, that person did it to me. So then you go into that whole idea of working other gods. Because you're saying that there's somebody else that's in control of your life and not you. And the whole idea of the system is to unify the system and saying that I, as an individual, am projecting the whole reality in front of me. And therefore, any problems that I have, I'm projecting. And therefore, if I want to solve them on any real degree, I'm going to have to deal with them internally and understand what are my daily concepts. Why am I attracting this kind of pain or pleasure? All right, let's continue. Shemot Kedoshim, holy names. Item 2. These 10 Sefirot, emanations, of the 10 holy names in the Torah. The name Eheyeh, pronounced Ehekeh, is the Sefirah Keter, emanation of crown. The name Yah, pronounced Ka, is the Sefirah Chochmah, emanation of wisdom. And the name Havaya, with the pronunciation of Elokim, is Bina, emanation of understanding. The name El, pronounced Kel, is Chesed, kindness. The name Elokim, the name Elohim, pronounced Elokim, is Gevurah, judgment. And the name Havaya, with punctuation of Shva, Cholam, and Kamatz, is Tiferet, beauty. The name Tzvaot is Netzach, eternity, and Hod, majesty. The name Shaddai, pronounced Shadi, is Yesod, foundation. And the name Adonai, pronounced Adni, is Malchut, kingdom. And this is referencing from the Zohar Vayikra, items 157 to 163, and 166 to 177. This is from the preface to the Sulam commentary by Bala Sulam. And what I've done is, of course, I've colored it by the emanations, but I've also put in the Hebrew words and their punctuation points. And the reason why some of the words are pronounced differently is the idea that there are names that are concealed. That is, when you're looking at a word and you're pronouncing it, you're basically making a connection between what you're seeing and what you're saying. Right? It comes again to the idea of what you're receiving and what you're trying to change because you're speaking. Right? So the idea is that many of the holy names are concealed, they're pronounced differently from what you are saying. So you look at a word and you're seeing the original letters, you would see the letters Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey, which means that you would have said Eheyeh. But instead of saying Eheyeh, you pronounce it Eke. You change the Hey into a Kuf. And the reason you do that is to represent the idea of concealing the name, which means we're talking about here about the holy names. So we're talking about the names that represent the names of the Creator. So the idea is to show that not always there's a direct correlation between what you see in reality and how you interpret it. And so there's two sides. What normally people are told is that the reason why these are hidden is because to protect the name of God, so you don't say it in vain. The other side to it is that to show the idea that what you're saying and what you're seeing doesn't always show that there's a direct correlation between them. That is, what you're expressing into reality and the way you interpret reality can be very entirely different. You could see someone where you can see situations where the creator looks like he's angry or he's causing you pain and your subconscious is causing you strife and turmoil. So it would seem like he must be causing you pain. And the idea is to show you that no, just because you feel it's pain, which means you see it as pain, doesn't mean it is pain. And you should interpret it differently. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of information, and it sounds great, but it's a bit overwhelming in the same moment.
I was going to say the same thing. There's a lot here, but the ramifications of this are enormous. I'd like to know more.
And each of the names, of course, is representing different of the emanations. Another, for example, very fascinating thing is that in the prayer book, let's say, for example, you have a blessing, right? And most blessings start with Baruch Atah, right? And when we're concealing, we say Baruch Atah Hashem. And when we're normally saying it, right, we would say, let's say I'm going to say, a blessing, Baruch Atah Adonai, Lamdeni Chukecha, right? That is a full blessing, a valid blessing, right? So notice what I'm saying. I'm saying the Malchut name. I'm saying the kingdom. I'm saying Adonai, right? Because it's a Baruch Atah Adonai. But in the prayer book, the word that you'll see there is actually Tiferet. You'll actually see the emanation of Tiferet. You'll see the Jehovah. It's not really like in English they say, but it's not Jah, it's Yah, right? So it's Yehovah. And the idea is that we don't say that ever. What we do is we say Adni, right? So we say Adonai. So we're looking at a word. It says Yud Kei Vav Kei. Instead of saying what we see, we're saying a totally different name. So we're looking at beauty and we're saying kingdom. And this happens throughout the entire prayer book, that you're always seeing beauty and you say kingdom. You see beauty, you say kingdom. And this represents the idea of that beauty represents the present, kingdom represents the past. So when you're looking at a word, you're looking at the present. But when you're saying it, then it's already the past. So you say the word of the past. And so when we're looking at reality, and we think we're experiencing the present, we're never actually experiencing the present. We're always experiencing the past. Because once you're having thoughts about something, that means it's already gone through processing. That moment's already over. You've already moved into the next moment. So you've got this constant cycle between the present, which is Tiferet, and you've got the past, which is Malchut. So you see the present, but by the time you're processing it and speaking, it's already the past. So it's Malchut. This is just one of the nice sort of observations of the names of God. Any questions before we finish this?
Are there more names of God? I think I read somewhere there were like 72 or something, but
I think there's more, but I don't know them right now. But in general, these are normally the names that are used. Like, even in Hebrew, right, where it says, Moshe asks God, give me a sign. He's like, who are you? He's like, I will be who I will be. Right? So it's a future word. And even in normal Hebrew, it's like, are you going to be there? Sham, I'll be there. So the idea is that the Sefirah of Keter, the emanation of crown, represents the future. So you've got kingdom represents the past, Tiferet, beauty, represents the present, and then you've got the emanation of crown, which represents the future. And you can see here with the for example, with Bina, understanding, right? It says Havaya, right? Yud He Vav He, with the punctuation of Elokim. So it's like Gevurah, judgment, right? Because we know that Bina, in the sort of the tree of life, Gevurah, judgment, is right beneath Bina, understanding, on the left side. So the idea is that you actually say, when you see this in the Torah, in the Bible, you say Elokim, even though the letters are different.
Seems like this is almost a study within itself.
Definitely. But I just wanted to give like a general overview of this item and sort of point out, in this session, I just wanted to point out some of the letters, and there's so many people that go deep into the letters. And yes, it is a fascinating world, but the idea is to always relate it to advancement.
Where might we find some good reading on this?
What the names mean? I would go to the Zohar of Vayikra, items 157, 163, 166 to 177. It talks about each name there in more detail. And just to be like aware of it, that there's much more depth beneath the skin. Like, for example, the word Shaddai, which She'amar le'olamo dai. He said enough. He said to the world enough. And the idea is that the foundation represents where the screen, right? Because the screen is right on top of Malchut kingdom. So the screen is right in between kingdom and foundation. So the foundation represents where he said to the world enough. That is, the direct light cannot continue down into the kingdom. So he said to his world enough. He said to the concealment up to here. Adonai is my Lord, for example. So it shows a subservient relationship. El is towards. When I say I'm going from one place to another, I'm going from Yerushalayim, from Jerusalem, El Tel Aviv, to Tel Aviv. So kindness is a connector. It's like a two. It's like going from one place to another. It's a connector word. So you can see how even the words themselves have little references behind them. El, of course, is also normally the one we use for God. El Al-Hamim, the God of mercy. All right, I think we'll stop here and do the after party.